The stars looked beautiful tonight, Hyun thought, as he stood on the landing pad of New Pyongyang Colony. He had seen thousands of stars in his years traveling the galaxy, but somehow they always looked better after a successful delivery. The Iron Phoenix, his small freighter ship, sat behind him with its cargo bay finally empty. 3 months of hauling mining equipment to this distant colony, and now they could finally rest. "Brother, stop staring at the sky, and come celebrate with us," Hana's voice called out from the colony bar. His younger sister was already inside with the rest of his crew. Hyun smiled and walked toward the warm lights of the building. Inside, June was telling another one of his bad jokes to anyone who would listen. The navigator had been with Hyun for 5 years, and his jokes hadn't gotten any better. Mina, their medic, laughed anyway. She was kind like that, always making people feel good even when they didn't deserve it. Hana was working on her second drink, her engineering tools still attached to her belt. She never went anywhere without them. "To the Iron Phoenix," June raised his glass. "May she never break down in deep space again." "She only broke down because you spilled coffee on the navigation panel," Hana shot back, grinning. The crew laughed and drank together. These were good people, Hyun thought. More than crew, they were family. The celebration ended quickly when the alarm started screaming. Everyone in the bar ran outside to see what was happening. Hyun's military training kicked in immediately. He counted 6 large ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel above the colony. They were Valkyrie warships, their hulls covered in the red and black markings of their empire. His stomach turned cold. "This is Commander Threx of the Valkyrie Imperial Fleet," a harsh voice boomed from every speaker in the colony. "This colony now falls under our protection. You will pay tribute of half your resources each month. Refuse, and we will demonstrate what happens to those who reject our generosity." Tae, the colony administrator, ran to the communication center. Hyun followed him. Inside, Tae activated the public channel with shaking hands. "This is a registered human colony under the protection of Earth. You have no authority here. Leave immediately, or we will report this as an act of war." The laugh that came back was cold and cruel. "Earth? The weak species that just learned to travel the stars? Report whatever you wish, human. By the time your government responds, this colony will be ours, or it will be ash." "We won't pay," Tae said, trying to sound brave. "We won't be slaves." "Then burn." The first energy blast from orbit hit the mining facility on the north side of the colony. The explosion lit up the night sky like a second sun. People started screaming. Hyun grabbed Tae's shoulder. "Get everyone to the landing pads. Every ship needs to launch now." He ran back outside, where chaos had erupted. Families were running in every direction. Another orbital blast destroyed the water treatment plant. Fire and smoke filled the air. Hyun found Hana already at the Iron Phoenix, lowering the cargo ramp. "How many can we fit?" he shouted over the noise. "Maybe 40 if they don't mind being crushed together," she shouted back. People were already running toward any ship that would take them. June was in the cockpit, running through the emergency launch sequence. Mina stood at the ramp, helping people climb aboard. An old woman fell, and Mina picked her up gently, carrying her into the ship. That's when the drop pods started falling from the sky. They crashed into the colony like meteors, and from each one emerged Valkyrie shock troops. They were huge creatures, nearly 7 feet tall, covered in reptilian scales and carrying plasma rifles. They didn't aim for military targets. They shot anyone they saw. "Hyun!" Hana screamed. He turned to see 3 Valkyrie soldiers running toward the ship. People were still trying to get aboard. They were trapped in the open. His sister grabbed a plasma cutter from her tool belt. It wasn't a weapon, but Hana ran at the soldiers anyway, activating the cutting torch. She slashed at the nearest one, burning through its armor. The Valkyrie roared in pain and shot her. The plasma bolt hit Hana in the chest, and she fell. "No!" Hyun pulled his sidearm and fired, dropping 2 of the soldiers. The third one raised its rifle at the crowd of refugees. June appeared from behind, jumping on the creature's back and stabbing it with a piece of metal debris. They struggled, and the Valkyrie threw June against the ship's hull. The creature shot June 3 times before Hyun could kill it. Hyun ran to Hana. She was still breathing. Barely. "Get her inside," he ordered 2 refugees. They carried her up the ramp while Hyun provided cover fire. More Valkyrie were coming, dozens of them. "Everyone aboard now," he screamed. "Mina, close the ramp." But Mina wasn't moving. She stood at the ramp entrance, staring down at her stomach. A plasma burn went straight through her body. She had been shot while helping people board. Mina looked up at Hyun, smiled sadly, and collapsed. "Mina." Hyun caught her, but he could tell she was gone, dead before she hit the ground. He laid her down gently and hit the ramp control himself. The door began to close as plasma fire rained against the hull. Inside, people were crying and shouting. Hyun pushed through them to the cockpit. "June, get us out of here." No response. He reached the pilot's seat and found June slumped over the controls, blood everywhere. His navigator, his friend for 5 years, was dead. Hyun's hands moved on autopilot. He had flown enough missions in the military to manage a launch. The Iron Phoenix lifted off as more orbital strikes destroyed the colony below. He could see the streets he had walked just an hour ago turning into fire and rubble. "Hana, stay with me," he said, engaging the engines. In the back, someone was trying to help his sister. He could hear them saying the words he didn't want to hear. "Too much damage. Nothing they could do. She's gone." The Iron Phoenix broke atmosphere and jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, New Pyongyang colony became a graveyard. 5,000 people dead, including everyone Hyun loved. He delivered the 30 refugees to the nearest human station 3 days later. They thanked him with tears in their eyes, calling him a hero. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt empty. After they left, Hyun sat alone in his ship. The blood had been cleaned up, but he could still see where June had died in the pilot's seat, where they had laid Hana in the cargo bay, hoping she would survive, where Mina had smiled at him one last time. On the communication screen, a message was playing on repeat. Commander Threx, the Valkyrie leader, was broadcasting his victory. "Let this be a lesson to all weak species. The Valkyrie Empire shows no mercy to those who refuse our generosity." The pathetic human resistance was crushed in minutes. Hyun watched the message 3 times. He memorized Threx's face, his voice, every detail. Then he began making calls. He sold everything he owned. He took every credit he had saved over 10 years of trading. He contacted black market dealers and military suppliers. The Iron Phoenix was transformed over the next month. Weapons hidden in cargo bays, military-grade shields, a stealth system that cost more than the ship itself. The human government sent him messages. "Return for debriefing. File a report. Let the proper authorities handle this." He deleted them all. Hyun had been a soldier once, before he became a traitor. He knew how to fight. More importantly, he knew how to hunt. The Valkyrie thought humans were weak. They thought they could kill his family and face no consequences. They were wrong. Hyun plotted a course into Valkyrie space and engaged the engines. Somewhere out there, Commander Threx was celebrating his easy victory. He had no idea that death was coming for him. One human, one ship, one promise. They would all pay. 3 months had passed since New Pyongyang burned, and the Valkyrie Empire was starting to feel fear. Hyun stood in the shadows of a crowded trading station, watching his target. Captain Rax was a mid-level Valkyrie officer who had been on the ground during the colony massacre. Intelligence said he personally executed 12 civilians who tried to hide in a shelter. Now Rax sat at a bar, drinking and laughing with his soldiers, thinking he was safe. He was wrong. Hyun waited until Rax left the bar alone. The Valkyrie walked down a dark corridor toward the docking bays, his steps unsteady from too much drink. Hyun followed silently, decades of military training making him invisible in the darkness. When they reached an empty section, Hyun struck. The fight was over in seconds. Rax was bigger and stronger, but Hyun was faster and smarter. A knife between the scales of the Valkyrie's armor. right into the vital organs. Rax fell, gasping for air. New Pyongyang, Hyun whispered in his ear. That's why you're dying. He left the body where it would be found. Let them know someone was hunting them. Back on the Iron Phoenix, Hyun marked another name off his list. 12 down. 38 to go. Every Valkyrie soldier and officer who participated in the massacre was on that list. He had bought the information from contacts in the intelligence community, spending almost everything he had. But it was worth it. His ship was different now. The cargo bay where Hana died was filled with weapons. The cockpit where June bled out now had military-grade targeting systems. The medical bay where Mina took her last breath was packed with ammunition and supplies. The Iron Phoenix wasn't a trading ship anymore. It was a weapon. Hyun rarely slept. When he did, he saw their faces. Hana laughing at one of June's bad jokes. Mina helping an old woman onto the ship. June trying to save people until his last breath. The memories hurt, but he held on to them. The pain kept him focused. He kept holographic recordings of his crew on the ship. Sometimes, late at night, he would play them. Watch Hana work on the engines, talking about upgrading the power systems. Listen to June complain about the navigation computer. See Mina organizing the medical supplies. He would talk to them, telling them about his progress. Got another one today, Hana, he said to the recording. Use that weak spot in Valkyrie armor you told me about. You were right. The scales don't protect their joints well. The recording of his sister didn't answer. It never did. The Valkyrie High Command was noticing the deaths now. 12 officers dead in 3 months. All from the same unit that attacked New Pyongyang. At first, they thought it was coincidence. Then they thought it might be a rival Valkyrie faction. It took them too long to realize it was something else. Something worse. On a Valkyrie command ship, Lieutenant Vex studied the reports with growing concern. He was younger than most Valkyrie commanders, but brilliant at tactical analysis. The pattern was clear to him now. Every victim had been at New Pyongyang. Every death was clean and professional. This wasn't random violence. This was revenge. Commander Threx, Vex said during a briefing, I believe we are dealing with a single operative, possibly human. Threx laughed. One human? Killing our soldiers? Impossible. Humans are weak, soft creatures. They don't have the stomach for real warfare. With respect, sir, the evidence suggests otherwise. Every target was isolated and eliminated with precision. This is someone with military training. Then find this ghost and crush it, Threx ordered. I will not have the Valkyrie Empire embarrassed by vermin. Vex began his hunt immediately. He was smart and patient, studying every detail of Hyun's attacks. He noticed the pattern. Hyun always struck when his targets were alone or with minimal protection. He used the environment to his advantage. He never stayed in one place long enough to be caught, but everyone made mistakes eventually. Hyun's next target was Major Krell, a Valkyrie officer who had personally ordered the orbital bombardment of New Pyongyang's residential district. Intelligence reports said Krell would be at a supply depot on the outer rim in 3 days. It was perfect. Isolated location, minimal security. Too perfect. Hyun should have realized it was a trap. But he was tired, and angry, and not thinking clearly. He disguised himself as a traitor, and entered the depot with forged credentials. The plan was simple. Plant explosives, wait for Krell to arrive, and disappear in the chaos. He was placing the third charge when he heard the safety locks on 24 plasma rifles being released. Valkyrie soldiers emerged from behind crates and containers, surrounding him completely. Major Krell walked out last, smiling. The ghost appears, Krell said. Lieutenant Vex sends his regards. He knew you couldn't resist such an easy target. Hyun's mind raced. The detonator for the explosives was in his pocket. If he triggered it now, he would die. But so would they. But there were human workers in this depot. Innocent people. He couldn't kill them. Nothing to say, human. Krell stepped closer. I remember New Pyongyang. The way your people screamed when the bombardment started. Pathetic. Rage flooded through Hyun. He moved faster than the Velkari expected, drawing his pistol and shooting Krell in the face. Then he triggered the explosives. The blast tore through half the depot, creating chaos and confusion. Hyun ran through the smoke, firing at anything that moved. Plasma bolts flew past his head. One grazed his shoulder, burning through his jacket. Another hit his leg, and he stumbled. A Velkari soldier tackled him from the side. They crashed through a window into a maintenance corridor. Hyun fought with everything he had, using his knife to cut through the soldier's armor. They rolled across the floor, each trying to kill the other. Finally, Hyun got his blade under the Velkari's chin and pushed up. The soldier died gurgling. Hyun pulled himself up, pain shooting through his injured leg. He could hear more soldiers coming. The depot's alarm was screaming. He had minutes at best. He limped through the maintenance tunnels, using his knowledge of standard depot layouts to navigate. Behind him, he could hear Vex on the communication system, ordering soldiers to seal every exit. They were hunting him now, and he was wounded. For 3 hours, Hyun played a deadly game of hide-and-seek through the depot's lower levels. He set traps using maintenance equipment, ambushed patrols, and took their weapons, used the air vents to move between sections. His military training in urban warfare was the only thing keeping him alive, but he was getting weaker. The plasma burn on his leg was bad, and he was losing blood. He needed to get back to his ship, but it was on the other side of the depot. Between him and safety were 100 Velkari soldiers. That's when he met Yuna. She was a human engineer working in the depot's power systems. Hyun stumbled into her workspace, barely conscious. She should have screamed or run. Instead, she grabbed medical supplies and started treating his wounds. "They're looking for you everywhere," she said, working quickly. "You're the one killing the Velkari, aren't you? The one from New Pyongyang? How did you know?" "Everyone knows. Word spreads in these places. You're either crazy or the bravest person alive." She finished bandaging his leg. "My family died in a Velkari raid 2 years ago. I'll help you escape if you promise me one thing." "What?" "Kill them all." Yuna led him through maintenance passages she knew by heart. She helped him avoid patrols and security checkpoints. When they reached the docking bay, she created a distraction by causing a power surge that killed the lights for 60 seconds. It was enough. Hyun made it to the Iron Phoenix and launched before the Velkari could stop him. As his ship jumped to faster than light speed, he watched the depot shrink behind him. Vex had almost caught him. He couldn't afford to be careless again, but he had learned something important. He wasn't alone in his hatred of the Velkari. Other species, other humans, they all had reasons to want the Empire to fall. Maybe he could use that. Hyun checked his list again. 11 names were crossed off now. 39 to go, including Commander Threx at the top. The hunt would continue. He just needed to be smarter. "I made a mistake today," he said to Hana's recording later that night. "Got too confident. Won't happen again. I promise." The recording smiled at him, frozen in a moment of happiness that would never come again. Hyun set a course for his next target, and tried to ignore the pain in his leg. Sleep would have to wait. Revenge didn't rest, and neither could he. The Velkari Empire was starting to fear the ghost in the darkness. Soon, they would learn to fear much more than that. They would learn what happens when you hurt a human's family. They would learn there is no force in the galaxy more dangerous than a human with nothing left to lose. The information came from an anonymous source. A high-ranking Velkari officer would be at Omega Crucible Station in 48 hours. One of Threx's personal advisors. Someone who had helped plan the New Pyongyang massacre. An easy target in a crowded civilian station. Hyun should have known it was too good to be true. Omega Crucible was a massive trading station that served as a neutral meeting point for dozens of species. 25,000 people lived and worked there, making it the perfect place to hide, or the perfect place to trap someone. He docked the Iron Phoenix in Bay 14 and made his way through the crowded markets. The station was alive with activity. Merchants selling exotic goods, travelers from 100 different worlds, children running through the corridors. It reminded him of the peaceful times before everything burned. The target was supposed to be in Section 7, a residential area reserved for important visitors. Hyun had studied the station's layout for days. He knew every entrance, every exit, every security camera. This would be quick and clean. He reached the residential suite and bypassed the lock easily. Inside, the room was empty, except for basic furniture. No personal items, no luggage, no signs anyone actually stayed here. The trap closed before he could react. Blast doors slammed down over every exit. The lights changed to emergency red. And through hidden speakers, he heard a familiar voice. "Welcome, Ghost," Lieutenant Vex said. "I've been waiting for you." Hyun ran for the ventilation grate, but it sealed shut automatically. The walls, the floor, even the ceiling, everything was reinforced military-grade material. This wasn't just a trap, it was a cage specifically designed to hold him. Omega Crucible Station is now under military lockdown, Vex announced over the station's public address system. All civilians are ordered to shelter in place. Any human matching the following description should be reported immediately. Hyun recognized the game Vex was playing. Lock down the station, use civilians as shields, and slowly hunt him down. The Velkari knew he wouldn't risk innocent lives. They were using his morality as a weapon against him. He needed to move. The blast door was too strong to break, but the wall next to it was standard station construction. Hyun pulled explosive charges from his pack and placed them carefully. The blast would be directed, hopefully not killing anyone in the adjacent rooms. The explosion tore through the wall, and Hyun ran into the corridor outside. Alarms were screaming now. People were running in panic, trying to reach shelter areas. Velkari soldiers were already moving through the station in organized search patterns. Hyun dove into a maintenance shaft and started crawling. The station's internal systems were similar to human designs because humans had sold the technology to build it. He knew these systems. It was his only advantage. For 3 days, the hunt continued. Hyun moved through the station like a ghost, staying in the walls and floors where soldiers couldn't easily follow. He survived on emergency rations and water from maintenance pipes. His plasma burns from the depot still hurt, and new injuries were adding up. A cut on his arm from squeezing through a torn metal panel, bruised ribs from falling down a maintenance shaft, exhaustion pulling at every muscle. Vex was smart, though. He didn't just search randomly. He studied Hyun's patterns, predicted where he would go, and set ambushes. Twice Hyun walked into traps and barely escaped. The Velkari were learning. On the second day, Hyun found unexpected help. He dropped out of a ceiling vent into what he thought was an empty storage room. Instead, he found a young woman working on an electrical panel. She turned and saw him, her eyes going wide. "Don't scream," Hyun said quietly, raising his empty hands. "Please." The woman looked at him for a long moment. She was human, probably in her 20s, wearing an engineer's uniform. Her name tag read, Yuna. Different from the Yuna at the depot, but her expression held the same kind of quiet determination. "You're him," she said. "The one hunting the Velkari. The one from New Pyongyang." "I don't want to hurt anyone here," Hyun said. "I just need to leave. My parents lived on Talon Colony," Yuna said quietly. "The Velkari raided it 4 years ago. Took everything. Killed anyone who resisted. I was off station when it happened." She looked at the electrical panel, then back at him. "I can help you reach the docking bays, but I need something in return." "What?" "My family is trapped in Section 12. The Velkari are using that section as a base. Get them out safely, and I'll get you to your ship." Hyun wanted to refuse. Every minute on this station was a minute closer to capture. But he saw something in Yuna's eyes that he recognized. The same loss he carried. The same need for hope. "Show me where they are." Yuna led him through maintenance passages she knew from her work. She explained that the Velkari had taken over several sections, forcing civilians to serve them. Her mother and younger brother were trapped there, basically prisoners. "They're using civilians as human shields," Hyun realized. "That's why Vex chose this station," Yuna agreed. "He knew you wouldn't fight, if it meant killing bystanders. They reached Section 12 through an old access tunnel. Inside, Hyun could see Velkari soldiers everywhere. Yuna's family was in a residential area with about 50 other civilians, all forced to work as servants for the occupying forces. Hyun watched the patrol patterns for 2 hours, memorizing every movement. Then he made his move. He used smoke grenades to create confusion, setting them off in 3 different locations simultaneously. As the Velkari rushed to respond, Hyun slipped into the residential area. He found Yuna's mother and brother quickly. "Your daughter sent me," he said. "We need to go now." They trusted him without question. Maybe they saw something in his eyes that told them he understood their fear. They ran through the chaos, Hyun protecting them from confused soldiers. Plasma fire filled the air, but none of it came close. The smoke was too thick. He delivered them to Yuna's hiding spot and prepared to leave. But Yuna grabbed his arm. "The other civilians," she said. "We can't leave them." "I can't save everyone," Hyun said, exhausted. "You already saved my family. I know that. But those people have been prisoners for 3 days. If you leave now, Vex will kill them out of spite." "You know he will." She was right. Hyun had studied Vex enough to know the Velkari lieutenant would blame the civilians for helping him escape. "Can you cause a power failure in this section?" Hyun asked. "Yes, for about 5 minutes. That's all I need." When the lights died, Hyun moved through the darkness like a predator. He had spent years in military special operations, training for exactly this kind of situation. The Velkari had superior technology and numbers, but they couldn't see in complete darkness like he could with his night vision equipment. He eliminated 6 guards silently, using his knife to avoid making noise. Then he led the 50 civilians through the maintenance tunnels to safety. By the time the power came back on, they were gone. Vex was furious. Hyun could hear him over the communication system, ordering his soldiers to search every centimeter of the station. But the Velkari lieutenant's anger made him sloppy. He was so focused on revenge that he wasn't thinking tactically anymore. Yuna led Hyun to the docking bays on the 3rd day. They moved carefully, avoiding patrols. But as they reached the corridor leading to Bay 14, they found it completely blocked by Velkari soldiers. "There's another way," Yuna whispered. "Through the reactor core. It's dangerous, but there's a maintenance passage that connects to the lower docking levels." They crawled through tunnels filled with radiation warnings and extreme heat notices. Hyun's equipment beeped warnings about exposure levels, but he kept moving. Death by radiation was still better than death by Velkari firing squad. The passage opened into the reactor core itself, a massive chamber filled with glowing energy coils and humming machinery. A narrow walkway crossed the center, suspended above the reactor's heart. They were halfway across when Vex appeared at the other end. "Impressive," the Velkari lieutenant said, his weapon aimed at Hyun. "I underestimated human determination. I won't make that mistake again. I won't make that mistake." Behind them, more soldiers emerged, cutting off retreat. They were trapped on the walkway with nowhere to go but down into the reactor. "Surrender," Vex said. "I promise you a quick death. Resist, and I'll make sure it lasts days." Hyun looked at the reactor below. It was unstable by design, constantly balancing on the edge of meltdown. That's why stations like this had such elaborate safety systems. If those systems failed, "Yuna, can you cause a reactor overload from here?" "Yes, but it would destroy half the station. Thousands would die." "Can you trigger it and then stop it? Give us time to evacuate?" She understood immediately. "Maybe. If I override the safety protocols, I can force a partial overload. It would take 5 minutes to reach critical mass. That's your window." Vex was walking closer, confident he had won. Hyun met his eyes and smiled. "You made a mistake bringing me here, Vex. You gave me access to the one thing that could destroy everything." He nodded to Yuna. She pulled out a portable terminal and started typing faster than anyone he had ever seen. Alarms began screaming throughout the station. The reactor's hum changed to a dangerous whine. "Evacuate the station immediately," the automated voice announced. Reactor overload in 5 minutes. All personnel to escape pods. Vex's expression changed from confidence to horror. You're insane. You'll kill everyone. Then I suggest you start evacuating, Hyun shouted back. The Valkyrie soldiers ran for the exits, Vex screaming orders to override the system. But Yuna had locked them out. Only she could stop it now. Hyun and Yuna ran for the docking bays as chaos erupted throughout Omega Crucible. Civilians were rushing to escape pods. Ships were launching in every direction. In the confusion, no one noticed one more human running for his ship. They reached the Iron Phoenix with 2 minutes to spare. Yuna stopped at the boarding ramp. I'm staying, she said. I can stop the overload from the ship's reactor control room. Save the station. But I won't make it back here in time. Then don't stop it, Hyun said. Come with me. I can't let thousands die because of my choices. You know that. She smiled sadly. Go. Complete your mission. Make them pay for what they did to your family. To mine, to everyone they've hurt. Hyun wanted to argue, but the station was shaking now. The reactor was reaching critical levels. He grabbed Yuna's hand. Thank you. Kill them all, she said, and ran back toward the reactor. The Iron Phoenix launched as the station began to tear itself apart. But at the last second, the overload stopped. Yuna had done it. The station was crippled but intact. Most of the civilians had escaped. Hyun broadcasted the truth to every news network as he jumped to faster-than-light speed. The Valkyrie had taken over a civilian station, used innocents as shields, and nearly caused a disaster. Evidence of their crimes spread across the galaxy. Vex had survived, but his career was ruined. And somewhere in the chaos, Hyun had planted tracking devices on several Valkyrie ships. Now, he knew exactly where Threx's fleet was hiding. The hunt continued. But now the galaxy was watching, and the Valkyrie Empire was starting to understand that humans were not prey. They were predators. The encrypted message came 2 weeks after Omega Crucible. No sender information, just coordinates and a time. Meet me here, if you want the truth about New Pyongyang. Hyun knew it could be another trap. But the coordinates led to abandoned mining facility in neutral space, far from Valkyrie territory. If someone wanted to kill him, there were easier ways. He arrived early and scanned the facility from orbit. One small ship was already docked. Human design. He landed the Iron Phoenix in a defensive position and approached carefully. Weapon ready. Inside the facility's old control room, a woman waited. She was human, around 30 years old, with sharp eyes that constantly scanned her surroundings. Military bearing. Intelligence operative, Hyun guessed. I'm Jisoo, she said. I work for human intelligence in deep cover operations. I've been embedded in Valkyrie space for 3 years. Why contact me now? Because you've done in 6 months what our entire military couldn't do in 3 years. You've made the Valkyrie Empire afraid. She pulled up a holographic display. But you need to know something. New Pyongyang wasn't random. The display showed classified Valkyrie military communications. Jisoo translated them as Hyun read. His blood turned cold. It was a test, Jisoo explained. The Valkyrie High Command wanted to see how humans would respond to direct aggression. They picked a small colony, far from help, and wiped it out. They expected your government to file diplomatic protests, maybe economic sanctions, but nothing that would actually threaten them. They were testing us for an invasion, Hyun said quietly. Yes, a full-scale assault on human space. The plan was to hit 12 major colonies simultaneously, overwhelming Earth's defense forces. But then you happened. She changed the display, showing intelligence reports. Your one-man war has caused chaos in Valkyrie Command. Officers are afraid to leave their ships. Morale is collapsing. They're delaying the invasion while they hunt you. Good. Let them be afraid. It's not enough, Jisoo said firmly. You've hurt them. Yes. But Threx is preparing the invasion fleet anyway. In 10 days, they'll launch whether they've caught you or not. 50 warships hitting human colonies all at once. Millions will die. Hyun sat down heavily. He had been so focused on revenge that he hadn't seen the bigger picture. Killing Valkyrie officers one by one wouldn't stop this. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "I want to help you kill Threx," Jisoo said. "But not just as revenge. If we can eliminate him and cripple his flagship, the invasion fleet will fall apart. The Valkyrie military is built on strict hierarchy. Without Threx, the other commanders will fight among themselves instead of attacking us. You want me to assault his flagship? That's suicide." "Probably," Jisoo agreed. "But I have intelligence on their security systems, patrol routes, and command structure. And I can get you a team. Real soldiers who want to stop this invasion. I work alone. That's why you almost died at Omega Crucible," Jisoo said bluntly. "You're good, Hyun. Maybe the best soldier I've ever seen. But this is beyond one person. You need help." Hyun thought about Hana, Jun, and Mina. They had been a team, a family. After they died, he had refused to let anyone else get close. But Jisoo was right. This mission was bigger than revenge. "Who's on this team?" Jisoo brought up profiles. First is Dae, former fighter pilot. His colony was raided by the Valkyrie 3 years ago. His wife and daughter were killed. He's been flying missions against them ever since. The next profile showed a young woman with intense eyes. This is Bo-Ra, demolitions expert. Best in the business. She lost her entire unit to a Valkyrie ambush, only survived because she was setting charges on the other side of the base. "And you?" Hyun asked. "What did you lose?" Jisoo was quiet for a moment. "Nothing personal. I just hate bullies. And the Valkyrie are the biggest bullies in the galaxy." They met the team at a safe house on a human-controlled station. Dae was older than Hyun expected, maybe 50, with gray hair and sad eyes. But when he talked about flying, those eyes came alive. He had been a commercial pilot before the raids, just trying to make a living. Now he flew a heavily modified fighter that had killed more Valkyrie ships than some entire squadrons. Bo-Ra was younger, barely 25, but her hands were steady as rocks. She showed them her equipment casually, handling explosives that could level buildings like they were toys. She had a dark sense of humor that reminded Hyun of Jun. "So the plan is to sneak onto the most heavily defended ship in the Valkyrie fleet, kill their supreme commander, and escape alive?" Dae said. "I've heard worse plans." "Not many, but a few. We won't all survive," Hyun said honestly. "This is a one-way mission, unless we're very lucky." "I stopped caring about survival 2 years ago," Dae replied. "I care about making sure my daughter didn't die for nothing." Bo-Ra just smiled. "I've been dead inside since my unit was wiped out. At least this way. I go out with a bang." Jisoo spread out the intelligence reports. Threx's flagship is called the Eternal Fang. It's massive, heavily armed, and surrounded by escort ships. Direct assault is impossible. But I've been tracking their movements for months. In 9 days, the fleet will gather at coordinates here. She pointed to a spot in deep space. It's a staging area for the invasion. They'll be focused on final preparations, not internal security. "How do we get aboard?" Hyun asked. "We capture a Valkyrie patrol ship. Use it to approach the fleet with stolen identification codes. Once we dock, we split up. Bo-Ra plants charges on critical systems. Dae secures an escape route. You and I go after Threx." "What about their head of security?" Dae asked. Jisoo's expression darkened. "That would be Lieutenant Vex. After Omega Crucible, Threx promoted him and put him in charge of flagship security. He'll be hunting for you specifically." Hyun smiled coldly. "Good. I owe him some pain." They spent the next week preparing. Capturing the patrol ship was easier than expected. The Valkyrie crew had gotten lazy, thinking they were safe in their own territory. Hyun and the team hit them hard and fast, taking the ship without casualties. Bo-Ra reprogrammed the ship's identification systems, while Jisoo downloaded everything she could from their computers. What they found made Hyun's blood run cold. The invasion plans were worse than anyone thought, not just 12 colonies, 25. The Velkari plan to wipe out every human presence in this sector of space. They're not trying to conquer us, Jisoo said, reading the files. They're trying to exterminate us. Because you made them look weak. This is about pride now. Then we stop it, Hyun said. Whatever it takes. On the 8th day, they jumped to the staging area. The Velkari fleet was already gathering. 50 warships, maybe more. All preparing for genocide. The Eternal Fang sat in the center. A massive vessel 3 times the size of any other ship. That's our target, Jisoo said quietly. They approached slowly, transmitting the stolen codes. Hyun waited for alarms, for weapons to lock onto them, for everything to go wrong. But the codes worked. The Velkari fleet saw them as just another patrol ship returning from duty. We're cleared to dock, Day said from the pilot seat. This is it. Last chance to back out. Nobody moved. Dock us, Hyun ordered. The patrol ship connected to the Eternal Fang's lower bay. As they prepared to board, Hyun checked his equipment one last time. Weapons, explosives, medical supplies. He had a recording of Hana's voice in his helmet, her last words to him before she died. I love you, brother. Don't let them win. I won't, he whispered back. The team stepped onto the Velkari flagship. Weapons hidden under stolen uniforms. Somewhere in this massive ship, Threx was preparing to murder millions of humans. Somewhere in these corridors, Vex was waiting to kill Hyun. But Hyun had a team now. He wasn't alone anymore. And he had made a promise to his sister. The Velkari would not win. Not today. Not ever. They moved deeper into the ship, toward the command center where Threx waited. Behind them, Bo-Ra started planting charges on every critical system she passed. Day stayed near the docking bay, ready to secure their escape. Hyun and Jisoo walked toward the heart of the beast. 10 days ago, Hyun had been a ghost in the dark, hunting alone. Now he was part of something bigger. A team. A mission. A chance to save millions of lives. The hallways of the Eternal Fang stretched before them, full of enemies and danger. But Hyun wasn't afraid anymore. He had been afraid when Hana died. When June fell. When Mina smiled her last smile. He had been afraid of being alone forever. Now he had purpose. And that was more powerful than any weapon. The hunt was almost over. Soon, Threx would understand what happens when you hurt a human's family. Soon, the galaxy would learn why you should never underestimate a human with nothing left to lose. The final battle was about to begin. The corridors of the Eternal Fang were colder than Hyun expected. Metal walls stretched in every direction, covered in Velkari military symbols and warnings in their harsh language. Soldiers passed them occasionally, but the stolen uniforms worked. Nobody looked twice at 2 more crew members walking through the ship. Jisoo guided them through maintenance passages and secondary corridors, avoiding the main routes where security was tightest. She had memorized the ship's layout from stolen blueprints, and so far everything matched perfectly. Bo-Ra just planted the last charge on the power distribution center, Jisoo whispered, checking her communication device. When we give the signal, this ship will go dark for 3 minutes. That's our window. And Day? Holding position at the docking bay. He's got our escape route ready. She paused. He also says good luck. And don't do anything stupid. Hyun smiled. That sounded like something June would have said. They were 50 meters from the command center when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flooded the corridor. Blast doors slammed shut throughout the ship. Over the speakers, a familiar voice echoed. Intruder alert, Vex announced. All security teams to stations. The human ghost has come to die. They know we're here, Jisoo said, pulling her weapon. Doesn't matter, Hyun replied. We're already committed. Bo-Ra, trigger the charges. The explosion rocked the ship. Every light died simultaneously, plunging the Eternal Fang into complete darkness. Emergency power would kick in soon. But for 3 minutes, they had the advantage. Hyun activated his night vision equipment and ran toward the command center. Jisoo stayed close behind him. They could hear Velkari soldiers shouting in confusion, stumbling in the dark. Hyun moved past them like a ghost, silent and invisible. They reached the command center door as emergency power started flickering on. Hyun placed breaching charges on the sealed entrance and stepped back. The explosion blew the door inward, and they rushed inside. The command center was chaos. Officers were trying to restore systems while guards ran to defensive positions. Hyun shot the first 3 guards before they could raise their weapons. Jisoo took out 2 more. They advanced through the room, fighting toward the elevated platform where Threx stood. But before they could reach him, the door behind them exploded. Vex walked through the smoke, his armor covered in scorch marks from Bora's explosives. He had survived the blast and come straight here. In his hands was a massive plasma blade that hummed with energy. "I knew you would come," Vex said. "I've been waiting for this moment." "Jisoo, go," Hyun ordered. "Kill Threx. I'll handle this." "You can't fight him alone." "Yes, I can. Go." Jisoo hesitated, then ran for the stairs leading to Threx's platform. Velkari guards moved to stop her, but she fought through them with deadly precision. She was outnumbered but skilled, and she had trained for this moment. Hyun faced Vex in the center of the command center. Around them, the battle continued, but both warriors ignored everything else. "This was personal. You've cost me everything, human," Vex said. "My reputation. My honor. Commander Threx blames me for not stopping you sooner." "Good," Hyun replied. "You deserve worse." They clashed in a fight that was brutal and fast. Vex was stronger, and his armor gave him protection, but Hyun was quicker and more experienced. They traded blows that would have killed lesser fighters. Vex's plasma blade cut through a support column. Melting metal, Hyun dodged and fired his pistol, hitting the weak points in Velkari armor that Hana had taught him about. The fight moved through the command center, destroying equipment and killing anyone who got too close. Vex was good. Maybe the best warrior the Velkari had. But he had one weakness. He was angry that a human had made him look foolish. That rage made him sloppy. Hyun waited for the opening. When Vex swung his blade too wide, Hyun stepped inside his guard and drove a hidden plasma knife up under the Velkari's chin. The blade pierced through Vex's skull, killing him instantly. "You should have killed me at Omega Crucible," Hyun said as Vex's body fell. "Now you'll never get the chance." Above, Jisoo had reached Threx's platform. The Velkari commander was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, covered in ceremonial armor that marked him as a warrior of the highest rank. His personal guards lay dead around him. Jisoo had fought through them all. "Impressive," Threx said, studying her. "For a human, but ultimately futile." He drew his own weapon, a sword that had killed hundreds of enemies in personal combat. Threx was not just a commander. He was a warrior who had earned his position through blood. Jisoo fought bravely, but she was outmatched. Threx's blade cut through her defenses and knocked her weapon away. He raised his sword for the killing blow. Hyun arrived just in time, tackling Threx from the side. They crashed through the platform railing and fell 10 feet to the floor below. Hyun felt his ribs crack on impact, but he ignored the pain. He had come too far to stop now. Threx stood, laughing. The ghost reveals himself. "I was hoping to meet the human who thinks he can challenge an empire." "I already have," Hyun said, pulling himself up. "I've killed 50 of your officers, destroyed your stations, made your soldiers afraid to sleep at night. I've turned your invasion into a disaster before it even started." "One human," Threx roared. "One pathetic creature. You think this changes anything? We are the Velkari Empire. We will crush humanity and every other weak species that stands in our way." "You're wrong about humans," Hyun said quietly. "We're not weak because we care about each other. That's what makes us strong. You killed my sister, my crew, my friends. You thought that would break me." He charged forward, faster than Threx expected. "But it made me into something you can't understand. You made me into exactly what I needed to be to destroy you." The fight was desperate and violent. Threx was bigger, stronger, and more experienced in personal combat. But Hyun fought with something Threx had never faced before. Pure determination born from loss. Every blow he landed was for Hana, for June, for Mina, for the 5,000 people who died at New Pyongyang. Threx landed a hit that sent Hyun flying across the room. He felt bones break, tasted blood, but he got back up. "You should be dead," Threx said, confused. "I died the day my sister did," Hyun replied. "Everything since then has been borrowed time, but I'm going to use every second of it to make you pay." He attacked again, using techniques from his military training that Threx had never seen. Human special forces didn't fight like other species. They used deception, speed, and ruthless efficiency. Hyun targeted weak points, used the environment, and refused to give up even when wounded. Finally, he saw his opening. Threx was tired, overconfident, expecting Hyun to fall. Hyun dropped low, avoiding a sword strike, and drove his combat knife into the joint where Threx's armor met his leg. The Valkyrie commander roared in pain and fell to one knee. Hyun didn't hesitate. He grabbed Threx's own sword and drove it through the commander's chest, right through the ceremonial armor and into his heart. "This is for New Pyongyang," Hyun said, looking into Threx's eyes. "This is for everyone you killed, everyone you hurt, every family you destroyed." Threx tried to speak, but only blood came out. He fell forward, dead. Jisoo had recovered and activated the ship's communication system. "Broadcasting now," she said. "The entire Valkyrie fleet is watching." Hyun stood over Threx's body, addressing the cameras. "I am Captain Hyun of the human ship Iron Phoenix. Your commander is dead. Your invasion is over. Return to your space and never threaten humanity again. Because now you know what happens when you hurt even one of us." The reaction was immediate. Through the windows, they could see the Valkyrie fleet falling into chaos. Some ships started firing on each other as officers fought for command. Others simply fled, jumping to faster than light speed. The careful invasion plan collapsed in minutes. "Time to go," Jisoo said. "This ship won't hold together much longer with Bo-Ra's charges going off." They ran for the docking bay, fighting through confused Valkyrie soldiers. Day had the escape route ready, and Bo-Ra was already aboard their captured ship. They launched just as the Eternal Fang began to tear itself apart. The Iron Phoenix was waiting nearby, and they transferred over quickly. As Hyun took the controls of his old ship, he looked back at the Valkyrie fleet scattering in every direction. The invasion was stopped. Millions of lives were saved, but the cost had been high. 3 weeks later, Hyun stood at a memorial on Earth for the victims of New Pyongyang. 5,000 names carved into stone. He found Hana's name, touched it gently. "We did it," he whispered. "They won't hurt anyone else." Behind him, Jisoo, Day, and Bo-Ra waited. They had become his new crew, his new family. The Iron Phoenix had been renamed Hana's Promise, a reminder of why they fought. The human government had quietly pardoned Hyun for his unauthorized actions. Officially, he was still wanted. Unofficially, he had saved humanity, and everyone knew it. "What now?" Day asked. Hyun looked at the stars. The galaxy was huge, and there were many species like the Valkyrie. Bullies who thought strength meant you could hurt the weak without consequences. "Now we make sure this never happens again," he said. "We show the galaxy that humanity protects its own. And if anyone threatens us or our allies, they'll learn the same lesson the Valkyrie did." Bo-Ra smiled. "I like this plan." "Me too," Jisoo agreed. They boarded Hana's Promise and launched into space. The ship that had once been a simple freighter was now a symbol. Proof that humans would fight for each other. That they would never give up, never surrender, never forget. The Valkyrie Empire learned that day what the rest of the galaxy would learn in time. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the smartest or the most advanced, but they were the most dangerous when you hurt their family. And in the vast darkness of space, nothing was more terrifying than a human with nothing left to lose and everything left to fight for. The story of the lone human who hunted down an empire spread across the stars. It became a warning, a legend, a promise. Touch one human, and you face all of humanity, because they never forget. and they never forgive. The hunt was over, but the protection of humanity had just begun.